The Syrian issue shows United States what Erdogan can do for United States and Israel. And now the term is Iran. Openly in Turkey now, people, journalists, academicians, politicians who are close to the government, even some representatives of the governing party, they say that now we will get rid of Iran openly.
To carry out regime change in Iran.
Yes, for sure. And even they are telling that there might not be an Iranian state. You know the problem with the Azerbaijani part of Iran. There are millions of people living in Iran who are, in fact, Azerbaijan people, especially mainly the Tabriz area. And now there's a real conflict going on with Azerbaijan, with Aliyev and the Iranian state. So the tension is increasing. And you have to take into account that Azerbaijan, although a close ally of Turkey, is also a very close ally of Israel, and they are pumping oil to Israel. During all those terrible events in Gaza, Aliyev regime in Azerbaijan, they didn't do anything for Palestine, and they continued their cooperation with Israel on the military field and in energy sector. And now Azerbaijan is trying to provoke Iran with Turkey. So how can we say that Erdogan is threatening US interest in the region? They got rid of Assad. Turkey did nothing to support the Palestinian people except talking and talking and talking. And now Turkey is threatening Iran, which is, of course, on the table for United States and Israel. Of course, I am not saying that, as you said, Turkey is not a puppet of United States. Turkish capitalism cannot be a puppet of any actor. They have their own agenda, they are trying to benefit, but they are cooperating with United States in a very businessman style. They know how to increase their price. For example, in Ukraine, they didn't join to the sanctions against Russia, but they are sending a lot of military equipment to Ukraine. So they are playing to both sides. But in the last analysis, Turkey as a NATO country is helping Ukraine, not Russia. In Syria, Turkey tried to at least have some cooperation with Russia. And then in the end, it was Turkey who helped all those jihadists to get rid of Assad. And of course, it destroyed Russian interest. So I want to say that neo-Ottomanism is an ambition of Turkish capitalism to become an imperialist country. But we are thinking that although Turkish capitalism has some strength and it has a support of a very strong state, in the end, this will also question the existence of Turkish Republic. In this region, we don't think that the balance of power and imperialist projects will let a strong and enlarged Turkey, because Turkey is now trying to achieve an agreement with some political forces of the Kurdish political forces so that there will be an alliance of Turks and Kurds so that the Turkish influence in the region will increase.
What you're saying, first of all, just to summarize real quickly, is that having succeeded with the fall of Assad, with the toppling of Assad, which is not a popular uprising, but international players playing a dominant role, including Turkey, but United States, Britain, and Israel, that they also have a sense of potential that if they can carry out regime change in Syria, maybe they can carry out regime change in Iran too, which is a much bigger prize, of course. And that Iranian society, like many of the societies in the Middle East, but many societies everywhere, has ethnic diversity, and that there's an Azerbaijan population, and that the Azerbaijan government, formerly a government which was one of the republics of the Soviet Union, but now in the camp of counter-revolution, and working with the U.S. and Israel and providing oil for Israel, could sort of find a way to support the movement, so-called movement of Azerbaijanis in Iran to help try to, one, overthrow the government in Iran or actually dismember the existing Iranian state. And I think it's a really important point that you're making, because if you go back to Yugoslavia, which you talked about in 1999, Yugoslavia was a multinational socialist state. It had, whatever one thinks about the Milosevic leadership, it came about, its existence, Yugoslavia came about after World War I, but became a socialist multinational republic after World War II. And Yugoslavia was broken apart. Yugoslavia was dismembered. The Soviet Union was dismembered. When the U.S. looks at China, when they think about Xinjiang or Tibet or Hong Kong, they're also thinking, well, we could break up these bigger countries. And now, having sort of succeeded at the toppling of the Assad government, U.S. imperialism and Israel and others perhaps now thinking, well, let's carry out regime change in Iran. But the other point that you're making is that in spite of the expansionist desires, the Neo-Ottoman project of some sectors of the Turkish ruling class, Turkey itself could be susceptible to a kind of dismemberment. And I think that's really important, because the dominant imperialist powers, the number one or number two, or the center of world imperialism, American imperialism and British imperialism, they would prefer to have smaller states, weaker states, more easily dominated states, because ultimately they don't really care about the form of governance in any of these countries. They care about their own imperialist interests. The form of governance is sort of pretextually used to say, oh, we're fighting for democracy here or democracy there. But underneath all of those words, those euphemistic words, those noble sounding phrases, it's a very expansionist, very predatory system. So you have Iran, and even you're saying, and I think this is so important, even Turkey itself. So as Turkish communists, you're fighting the class struggle against Erdogan, but you're also aware of the potential dangers from world imperialism about Turkish sovereignty. Anyway, I'm sort of summarizing because this is complicated. And if you don't know the geography and we don't know the players, it might get a bit confusing. But I think this is an important thread that you're going down, because this is what American imperialism and British imperialism and the Zionist regime are undoubtedly thinking about.
Sure. You see, openly, some representatives of Erdogan government and even Erdogan himself, they were saying that before the fall of Assad, they were saying that there's a threat against Turkey from outside. So we should try to solve our Kurdish problem. So there's a new attempt to have negotiations between PKK and the Turkish government. It's going on for 2 months now. It started before the fall of Assad.
Yeah, and the PKK is the Workers' Party of Kurdistan. Is its name.
Yeah. And one of the supporters of Erdogan told that it is Israel threatening Turkey. So we have to consolidate inside the country in order to avoid this threat. So what they mean about the threat, it's the Kurdish issue, because Turkey's main ethnic issue is the Kurdish problem. And Kurdish problem is very sensitive, as there are Kurdish population in Syria, in Iraq, and in Iran, as well as Turkey. So there are mainly Kurds are living in 4 different countries. In Iraq, the Kurds already have their own, it's not called a state, it's called an autonomous region, but actually it is like a semi-state. In Syria, they have a region which is threatened by Turkey, but most probably they will have an agreement. And it's an oil-rich region in Syria. It's an oil-rich region in Iraq, the Kurdish part of Iraq. So they already managed to actually split Iraq and Syria in reality. I mean, not only with the Kurds. In Iraq, there are different ethnical compositions, Sunnis, Shiites. In Syria, there are the Durzis, the Christians, the Shiites. So in practice, both these countries, Syria and Iraq, are divided. And now Iran. In Iran, there are two main ethnic minorities. One is the Kurds, and the other is the Azerbaijan people, which we cannot call a minority because they are very strong in population. If things go like that, if we have either new states or autonomous regions, this will affect Turkey for sure. And what Turkey is trying to do now with a neo-Ottomanist philosophy is to try to form a Sunni axis. You know, there are two main sects in Islam world. One is the Shiites and Alawites. They have some differences. In Turkey, we have Alawites. But the other sect is the main sect in Islam, Sunnis. What Turkey is trying to do is to build a Sunni axis. That includes the Kurds, because the Kurds in the region are mainly Sunnis. Okay, there are Shiite Kurds also, but the main part of the Kurds are Sunnis. So the Sunni Arabs, Sunni Turks, and Sunni Kurds. So Turkey is trying to use this as a new enlarged Turkish Republic, which we call Neo-Ottoman. Okay, it should not be an annexation. For example, the Iraqi Kurdistan, especially the Barzani part.
In Iraq, inside of Iraq.
Yes, it is like Turkey, because the main economic actors are Turkish businessmen. There are a lot of flights, daily flights. So if Turkey manages to have an agreement with PKK, then things will be more easy to have cooperation, to have relations. Maybe the borders will be relaxed. So it will be like a free zone, let us say, for Turkey. And the interesting thing is, PKK is also saying this. Their leader in the jail for many years, Öcalan, the leaders who are in Iraq, in the camps, they are saying the same, saying that if Turkey makes an agreement with us, if there will be a Kurdish-Turkish coalition alliance, Turkey will become a real power in the region. If not, this will be an end of Turkey. So PKK is nearly saying the same thing. Of course, they say this for bargaining purposes. It's a carrot and stick policy. And Turkish state is also doing the same, saying PKK, leave the arms, make an agreement with us, so we will have peace and we will have a strong Turkish Republic. But the problem here is nobody will let Turkey to use the Kurds and Sunni Arabs to become a real force. No, United States, other forces, and we should take out Iran. Iran is still existing. All the forces in the region and strong imperialist countries, they will not let Turkey become a real force, because that region is also a region with a lot of resources, oil. But not only this, all this region is important because of it is routes for trade and energy pipelines. China is also trying to build its own trade and business lines through this region. There are lines trying to be built to Israel. So it is strategically very important region, and nobody will let Turkey to control this region itself. So what we believe is they will use Turkey. Maybe there will be an agreement between Turkey and PKK. Then they will use it against Iran. And afterwards, we will face either with new ethnic problems, or we will face with an issue of a joint, for example, Kurdish state. Okay, I'm not going to get into a discussion here, but a joint Kurdish state means land from Iran, land from Iraq, land from Syria, and land from Turkey. And that will create a real problem. So I'm afraid if we don't manage to unite all the people in all ethnic origins on a class basis, this region will witness new massacres, new wars, new invasions, new annexations. Now the Pandora box is open. This is a new situation.